The keys jangled in my hand as I pushed open our front door 3 hours earlier than expected. The principal had canceled the afternoon staff meeting, a small mercy on a Friday that had already stretched my patience thin. All I wanted was to kick off my shoes, pour a glass of wine, and sink into the weekend. Maybe even surprise Ethan with an impromptu date night. Our house was quiet, save for the faint sound of someone speaking in hushed tones from the kitchen. Ethan wasn't supposed to be home. His architectural firm kept him until 6 on Fridays, a standing complaint throughout our 8-year marriage. I dropped my bag by the door, slipped off my shoes, and padded across the hardwood floors. The voice grew clearer, Ethan's voice, breaking with emotion. "I can't keep doing this," he said, his words catching. "It's killing me inside." I froze, my hand on the wall, heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. "No, you don't understand." A pause. "I've tried, I swear I've tried, but every day it gets harder to look her in the eyes." The blood drained from my face. I should have announced myself, should have made my presence known, but my feet refused to move. 2 years. 2 years of this. I know, but Madeline... His voice cracked on a name I didn't recognize. I peered around the corner and the sight punched the air from my lungs. Ethan, my solid, unshakable husband, sat at our kitchen island, shoulders heaving with silent sobs, one hand gripping his phone while the other covered his face. I'd never seen him cry like this, not even when his father died. I love her. God, I love Olivia so much it physically hurts. You have to believe me, Olivia. The name hit me like a physical blow. I must have made some sound because Ethan's head snapped up, his red-rimmed eyes meeting mine. The phone slipped from his fingers, clattering against the marble countertop. Abby. My name on his lips sounded foreign, panicked. "You're home early." I stood paralyzed, watching tears stream down the face of the man I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. The man who had just been talking about loving someone named Olivia. Who's Olivia? The question emerged as barely more than a whisper. Ethan's face crumpled. "Oh God, Abby, I can explain." But I was already backing away, my vision blurring. 8 years of marriage, 12 years together, and suddenly I was standing across from a stranger. "Abby, please." He rose from the stool, reaching for me. "It's not what you think." The laugh that escaped me sounded hysterical even to my own ears. "Not what I think? I just heard you say you love someone named Olivia. That it's been 2 years. 2 years, Ethan?" He moved toward me, hands outstretched. "Please let me explain. Just don't touch me." I backed away, bumping into the wall. "Don't you dare touch me." The phone on the counter lit up, a voice faintly calling Ethan's name. He glanced at it, torn, and in that moment of hesitation, I turned and fled, grabbing my keys and bag in one desperate motion before slamming out the door. I made it to my car before the first sob tore through me, ripping apart everything I thought I knew about my life. The night we met, Ethan Bailey spilled red wine on my white dress at a mutual friend's gallery opening. I should have been furious. It was a new dress, purchased specifically for the event, but there was something so genuinely mortified in his expression that my anger dissolved before it could properly form. "Swear I'm usually more coordinated," he said, frantically offering me his jacket. "I design buildings for a living. Precision is kind of my thing." "Do you ruin many dresses in the architectural process?" I asked, accepting the jacket with a wry smile. His laugh transformed his face, erasing the anxiety and revealing something warm and magnetic beneath. "Only the ones worn by beautiful women who deserve better first impressions." Normally, I would have rolled my eyes at such an obvious line, but there was something self-deprecating in his delivery that made it charming instead of sleazy. We spent the rest of the evening in the corner of the gallery, ignoring the art in favor of conversation that flowed so naturally, it felt like we'd known each other for years, rather than hours. He called the next day, not playing any games, just direct and sincere. "I'd like to see you again, preferably while keeping all beverages a safe distance from your clothing." 6 months later, I moved into his downtown loft. A year after that, he proposed on a windswept beach at sunset. both of us laughing as rain began to fall just as he dropped to one knee. We took it as a good omen. Our relationship had begun with liquid mishap. It seemed fitting that our engagement did too. Our wedding was small but perfect. Ethan's eyes never left mine during the ceremony, his voice steady as he promised forever. My mother later said she'd never seen a man look at a woman with such certainty. The first years passed in a blur of contentment. We settled into a rhythm, me teaching 4th grade at Westlake Elementary, Ethan climbing the ranks at Pearson & Associates Architecture. We bought a craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood, renovating it room by room on weekends, laughing through the dust and paint splatters. We talked about children, agreeing to wait until we were both ready. Ethan was the steady one, the planner, the voice of reason to my occasional impulsivity. I fell asleep each night with his arm around me, secure in the knowledge that we were building something unshakable. He knew my fears, my dreams, the small insecurities I hid from everyone else. I knew the weight he carried from his father's expectations, the quiet pride he took in his work, the way he couldn't sleep if a design wasn't quite right, or at least I thought I knew him. Looking back, the changes began about 2 years ago. Subtle at first, so gradual I barely noticed. Ethan worked later, his mind often elsewhere even when he was physically present. He grew protective of his phone, the screen always angled away from me. There were unexplained absences, meetings that ran long, client dinners I wasn't invited to attend. I told myself it was work stress. His firm was bidding on a major downtown revitalization project. Of course he was preoccupied. Of course he was distant. But then came the secret phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. The weekends he spent at the office when his car wasn't in the firm's parking lot. The credit card charges at restaurants we'd never visited together. My closest friend, Rebecca, gently suggested the obvious one night over wine. Have you considered that he might be having an affair? I dismissed the idea immediately. Not Ethan, he wouldn't. People change, Abby. Even good people make mistakes. I'd shaken my head, certain. Not him. Not us. Yet doubt, once planted, grows like a weed. I began to watch him more closely, cataloging the inconsistencies, the moments that didn't quite add up. Still, I said nothing, fear keeping the questions locked behind my teeth. As long as I didn't ask, he couldn't confirm my worst fears. Then came that Friday afternoon when the principal canceled the staff meeting, sending me home to find my husband crying in our kitchen, confessing his love for someone named Olivia to someone named Madeline. Now, sitting in my car outside our home, engine running but going nowhere, I realized I'd been right about one thing. I didn't know Ethan at all. I drove aimlessly for hours, ignoring Ethan's calls until my phone died. Eventually, I ended up at Rebecca's apartment, mascara streaked down my face, unable to form coherent sentences between sobs. Rebecca, bless her, didn't ask questions. She poured me a stiff drink, wrapped me in a blanket, and sat beside me until the tears subsided enough for me to explain. I knew something was wrong, she said softly when I finished. But I hoped I was wrong. I need to know who she is, I said, my voice hoarse. This Olivia. Are you sure that's what you need right now? I nodded, a strange calm replacing the hurricane of emotion. I need to see her face. I need to understand what was worth destroying our marriage. Rebecca sighed, squeezing my hand. Your phone's dead. Use mine. I hesitated, then took it, pulling up Ethan's Instagram account. He rarely posted, but occasionally tagged colleagues from work events. I scrolled through, looking for any woman who appeared too often, any name that might be Olivia. Nothing. Next, I tried Facebook, examining his friend list for the first time in years. Again, no Olivias jumped out at me. His firm's website, I said suddenly. They have staff profiles. We found the site scrolling through the team page. No, Olivia, what about LinkedIn? Rebecca suggested. Ethan's connections included hundreds of architects, designers, and clients. I filtered for Olivia and found 3 matches. One lived in Australia. Another was a gray-haired woman in her 60s who'd retired 5 years ago. The third, Olivia Chen, I read aloud. Interior designer. Started at Pearson & Associates 3 years ago. I clicked on her profile picture, my stomach clenching. She was beautiful, elegant, with sleek dark hair and warm eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled. The kind of woman who would look effortlessly put together even in a crisis. The opposite of my chaotic curls and perpetually smudged eyeliner. That's her, I whispered, certain without evidence. That has to be her. Rebecca peered over my shoulder. Abby, you don't know that. 2 years, he said. She's been at the firm for 3. The timeline fits. I continued scrolling through her profile, each professional accomplishment and elegant photo another knife to my heart. Then I froze, my finger hovering over the screen. What is it? Rebecca asked, concern in her voice. Her recent activity, I said, my voice hollow. She congratulated someone on their engagement 3 weeks ago. A man named Marcus Chen. I looked up. Her brother, cousin? Maybe, Rebecca said cautiously. And look who liked the post. I pointed at the screen. Ethan and someone named Madeline Chen. I looked up at Rebecca, the pieces refusing to fit together. Madeline. That's the name he was saying on the phone. This is getting complicated, Rebecca murmured. My head throbbed. Nothing made sense. Why would Ethan be on the phone with this Madeline person, talking about loving Olivia? I closed the laptop, suddenly exhausted. I need to confront him. Rebecca placed a gentle hand on my arm. Not tonight. You're in no state for that conversation. Stay here, get some sleep, clear your head. Part of me wanted to rush home immediately, to demand answers, to scream and rage and possibly throw things. But Rebecca was right. I needed to approach this with as much composure as I could muster. Tomorrow, I agreed, taking the spare pajamas she offered. I'll talk to him tomorrow. But sleep proved elusive, my mind replaying Ethan's words on an endless loop. I love her. God, I love Olivia so much it physically hurts. How long had I been living in a fiction? How had I missed the signs? Had our entire marriage been a lie? By morning, grief had hardened into determination. I borrowed clothes from Rebecca, charged my phone enough to send Ethan a terse message. We need to talk. I'll be home at noon, and steeled myself for what was to come. Driving home, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would remain calm and dignified even as my world collapsed around me. I would not beg. I would not break. I would demand the truth, and then I would figure out how to rebuild my life from the ashes. When I pulled into our driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked at the curb. A silver Lexus, visitor plates. My stomach dropped as a new possibility presented itself. Had he invited her here? Was I about to face both of them? The thought nearly sent me driving away again, but anger propelled me forward. This was my house too. I wouldn't be chased away from my own home. I unlocked the door with shaking hands and stepped inside to find Ethan sitting on the living room couch, eyes red-rimmed from what appeared to be a sleepless night. Beside him sat an elegant Asian woman in her 50s, her hands folded primly in her lap, Madeline Chen. It had to be. Abby, Ethan said, rising quickly. Thank you for coming home. I'm not sure it's still home, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Not when you're in love with someone else. The woman beside him made a small, distressed sound. Oh, Ethan, you didn't explain? I tried calling all night, he said, taking a step toward me. You didn't answer. I was busy processing the fact that my husband has been living a double life, I snapped. Who is she, Ethan? Who is Olivia Chen to you? A strange expression crossed his face. Confusion, then understanding, then something like despair. Abby, you've misunderstood everything. Don't gaslight me. The words exploded from me. I heard you. I love Olivia so much it physically hurts. Your exact words. The woman on the couch stood, her expression gentle but resolute. Mrs. Bailey, my name is Madeline Chen. I think we should all sit down. There's something you need to understand about my daughter Olivia. Your daughter, I repeated, the words failing to compute. Madeline nodded, gesturing to the armchair across from the couch. Please sit. This is difficult enough without all of us standing like combatants. I perched on the edge of the chair, rigid with tension, while Ethan and Madeline returned to the couch. The space between my husband and me seemed vast and unbridgeable. Olivia is my youngest daughter, Madeline began, her composed exterior belied by the tight grip of her hands in her lap. She was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia 2 years ago. The words landed like physical blows. Leukemia. Cancer. Not what I had been expecting at all. Olivia worked, with Ethan at his firm, she continued. They became friends. When she was diagnosed, your husband was incredibly supportive. He drove her to treatments when I couldn't, sat with her through chemotherapy, made her laugh on days when laughter seemed impossible. I glanced at Ethan, who was staring at the floor, shoulders curved inward like he was trying to make himself smaller. 6 months ago, Olivia went into remission, Madeline said, a brief smile crossing her face. We thought the worst was behind us. She returned to work, started dating again, made plans for the future. Her voice faltered. 3 weeks ago, her symptoms returned. The cancer is back, more aggressive than before. A heavy silence filled the room. I struggled to reconcile this story with what I'd heard in the kitchen. I don't understand, I said finally. If she's your daughter and she's sick, why would Ethan say he loves her? Why keep this from me for 2 years? Ethan raised his head, meeting my gaze directly for the first time. Because he asked me to. He? I echoed. Marcus, Ethan clarified. Olivia's brother. My best friend since college. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Marcus Chen, the engagement Rebecca and I had seen on LinkedIn. Marcus introduced me to Olivia when she joined the firm, Ethan continued. But they've been estranged from their father for years. When Olivia got sick, she didn't want him to know. She was afraid he'd try to take over her care, make decisions she didn't want. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. Their father and I move in the same professional circles. Marcus asked me to keep Olivia's illness quiet to prevent it from getting back to him. That doesn't explain why you kept it from me, I said, my voice tight. Ethan's expression crumpled. At first, it wasn't my secret to tell. Then, as Olivia got sicker, as I spent more time helping Marcus support her, I didn't know how to explain why I'd kept it from you for so long. He swallowed hard. And I knew you'd want to help. It's who you are, Abby. You'd want to be there, to support her, to join me in being there for her and Marcus. But Olivia was so private about her illness. She barely told anyone at work. It was this impossible situation where I felt like I was betraying someone no matter what I did. So you chose to betray me? I said softly. No. The word burst from him. I thought I was protecting everyone. I thought once she was in remission, it would all be behind us. I could explain then, when it was a story with a happy ending. His voice broke. But now she's out of options. The experimental treatment she qualified for, the one that might have saved her, her insurance denied it. Marcus has spent everything he has. I've given what I could without raising questions. I turned to Madeline, whose composed facade had begun to crack, tears gathering in her eyes. Yesterday, she said, I called Ethan to tell him Olivia's doctors are transitioning her to palliative care. They're giving her 6 months at most. A tear slipped down her cheek. That's what you overheard, Mrs. Bailey. A man grieving for a young woman who has become like family to him, and feeling guilty that he couldn't do more to save her. The room spun around me. I closed my eyes trying to process everything I'd heard. Not an affair, not a betrayal, at least not the kind I'd feared. But still lies, still secrets, still a husband who had shut me out of a significant part of his life for 2 years. Where is she now? I asked, opening my eyes. Olivia, Massachusetts General, Madeline replied. Marcus is with her. They're meeting with the palliative care team today. I nodded, then turned to Ethan. I need some time to think. Alone. Something like hope flickered in his eyes. You're staying? In the guest room, I clarified. We have a lot to work through, Ethan. You lied to me for 2 years. I know, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Abby. Madeline stood, gathering her purse. I should go. Thank you for hearing me out, Mrs. Bailey. Abby, I corrected automatically. Please call me Abby. She nodded, offering a small, sad smile. Abby. For what it's worth, Olivia and Marcus have told me what a good man your husband is, how much they value his friendship. She reached for her coat. In trying to help my children, I fear he's damaged something precious in his own life. I hope you can forgive him for that. After she left, Ethan and I sat in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. I would never cheat on you, he said finally. Never. You have to believe that. I do, I admitted. But you shut me out, Ethan. You created this whole separate life I knew nothing about. How am I supposed to trust you after that? He had no answer for that, and eventually I retreated to the guest room, locking the door behind me. 3 days passed in a strange, strained dance around each other. Ethan slept on the couch, respecting my need for space. We exchanged necessary information. I'll be late tonight. There's leftover pasta in the fridge, but nothing of substance. Each night, I heard him on the phone, speaking in low tones I presumed were with Marcus or Madeline, getting updates on Olivia. I called in sick to work, unable to face cheerful questions about my weekend from colleagues. Instead, I spent hours researching acute myeloid leukemia, learning about treatments, survival rates, experimental protocols. I joined online forums for friends and family of cancer patients, reading stories both heartbreaking and hopeful. The more I learned, the more I understood the brutal reality Olivia faced, and by extension, what Ethan had been dealing with while I remained oblivious. It didn't excuse his deception, but it contextualized it in ways that softened my anger, if not my hurt. On the 4th day, I made a decision. I found Ethan at the kitchen table staring blankly at his laptop. I want to meet her, I announced without preamble. His head jerked up, surprise evident in his expression. Olivia? Yes, I sat across from him, hands folded on the table. I need to understand this part of your life I've been excluded from. He hesitated. She's not having her best days right now. The new medication, I'm not asking for the perfect time. Ethan, I'm asking to know the person who's become so important to you that you were willing to lie to me for years. He flinched at that, but nodded slowly. I'll call Marcus. See if tomorrow would work. The next day found us driving to Massachusetts General in silence. I'd spent the night composing and discarding things to say, questions to ask, only to find myself wordless as we parked and made our way through the sterile hospital corridors. Outside Olivia's room, we found a man pacing, tall with the same elegant features as Madeleine, tension evident in every line of his body. Marcus, Ethan called softly. The man looked up, relief flooding his face at the sight of my husband. They embraced briefly, the kind of hug shared between people who had weathered storms together. She's having a good morning, Marcus said, pulling back. The new anti-nausea meds seem to be working. His gaze shifted to me, questioning. This is Abby, Ethan said, awkwardness creeping into his tone. My wife, understanding dawned in Marcus's eyes. She knows then. Everything, I confirmed, extending my hand. I'm sorry about your sister. Marcus took my hand, his grip firm. I'm sorry about the position we put Ethan in. It wasn't fair to any of you. He glanced between us. Mom told me what happened. If I'd known what it was costing your marriage... You had enough to worry about, Ethan interrupted. Is she awake? Up for visitors? Marcus nodded. She's been asking for you, actually. He turned to me. She'll be glad to finally meet you, Abby. She's heard a lot about you. That surprised me. She has? A small smile touched his lips. Ethan talks about you all the time. It's been a running joke between Olivia and me. How we know so much about you while you knew nothing about us. Not the healthiest dynamic, I observed dryly. No, Marcus agreed. It wasn't. He gestured to the door. Shall we? Nothing could have prepared me for the reality of Olivia Chen. The vibrant, beautiful woman from the LinkedIn photo was still there, but diminished. Her cheeks hollow, her skin pale, dark shadows beneath her eyes. An IV line snaked from her arm, and various machines beeped steadily beside her bed. Yet when she smiled, I glimpsed what had drawn people to her, a warmth that even illness couldn't extinguish. "The famous Abby," she said, her voice surprisingly strong. "I was beginning to think you were mythical." "Turns out I'm the one who was kept in the dark about legends," I replied, approaching the bed. Olivia laughed, then winced. "Fair enough. I'm sorry about that." She patted the edge of the bed. "Sit. Let me look at you properly." I perched carefully beside her, aware of Ethan and Marcus hanging back near the door, giving us space. "He was right about your eyes," Olivia said, studying me. "They don't miss much, do they?" "They missed this," I countered. "For 2 years," she nodded, acknowledging the point. "That's on us, not you. Marcus and I. We put Ethan in an impossible position." She glanced toward her brother. "Our father is a controlling man. When I got sick, I couldn't handle him trying to take over my life on top of everything else. Marcus respected that, but he was drowning trying to support me alone." Her gaze shifted to Ethan. "Your husband stepped up when we needed someone most." "He's good at that," I admitted. "Stepping up. Being the reliable one. Too reliable sometimes." Olivia's expression turned serious. "He wanted to tell you so many times. I could see it eating at him. But I kept asking him not to, selfish as that was." "Why?" The question that had been burning inside me for days. Why was it so important to keep me in the dark? Olivia sighed, her fingers plucking at the thin hospital blanket. "At first it was about my privacy. Then it became about protecting you." She met my eyes directly. "Cancer isn't just hard on the patient, Abby. It's hard on everyone who cares. I watched what it did to my mother, to Marcus. I saw Ethan struggling to balance work, his marriage, and being there for us. I thought—" She paused, gathering strength. "I thought if at least one person in his life wasn't touched by all this darkness, it would give him somewhere to breathe." The simplicity of her explanation stunned me. Not malice or deception for its own sake, but a misguided attempt to create a sanctuary. For Ethan. And by extension, for me. "It wasn't your decision to make," I said softly. "Either of you." "No," she agreed. "It wasn't, and I'm sorry for my part in it." A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. "Time for your meds, Miss Chen," Olivia grimaced. "Already?" "Afraid so." The nurse glanced at us. "This might be a good time for a coffee break. She'll be drowsy for about an hour after this one." We filed out, promising to return later. In the hospital cafeteria, the 4 of us sat around a small table, steam rising from mediocre coffee in styrofoam cups. "The experimental treatment," I said abruptly. "The one her insurance denied." "How much is it?" Marcus looked startled by the question. $300,000. It's a new immunotherapy protocol, still in trials. "And what are her chances with it?" He exchanged glances with Ethan. "Maybe 30% chance of remission. Without it." He didn't finish the sentence. "We've appealed the insurance denial twice," Ethan added. "They're not budging. Marcus has liquidated his savings. I've given what I could. How much have you raised?" "I pressed. About half," Marcus replied. "But the clock is ticking. The doctors say if she's going to try it, it needs to be soon, while she's still strong enough to withstand the side effects." I nodded, making a mental calculation. "We have savings." "And I have the money my grandmother left me." Ethan's head snapped up. "Abby, no. That's your safety net. Your dream of opening that bookstore someday. And this is a young woman's life," I replied steadily. "A woman who, despite everything, I believe was trying to protect my husband in her own way." I turned to Marcus. "I can transfer the funds tomorrow." Marcus stared at me in disbelief. "You would do that? After everything?" "I'm not doing it for you," I clarified. "Or even for Olivia, though I hope it helps her." I looked directly at Ethan. "I'm doing it because it's what partners do. They face crises together. They make hard decisions together. They don't shelter each other from life's ugliness. They walk through it side by side." Tears filled Ethan's eyes. "I don't deserve you." "No," I agreed. "Right now you don't. But you can earn back my trust, starting with no more secrets. Ever. He nodded, reaching tentatively for my hand across the table. I promise. I allowed my fingers to intertwine with his. The first step on what would be a long road back to each other. 8 months later, I stood in Olivia's hospital room, arranging fresh flowers beside her bed while she slept. The experimental treatment had worked, not a miracle cure, but enough to push back the darkness. Her cancer was in remission again, her prognosis cautiously optimistic. The door opened, and Ethan entered, carrying coffee for both of us. How is she? Sleeping, I replied, accepting the cup with a grateful smile. The nurse says her counts are up again this week. He nodded, relief evident in his expression. Marcus just called. He's running late. Some crisis at work. We'll hold down the fort, I assured him. In the months since I'd discovered Ethan's secret, we'd slowly rebuilt our marriage, brick by painful brick. Weekly therapy sessions, long, honest conversations that sometimes stretched until dawn. A new commitment to transparency, even when the truth was difficult. I'd come to know Marcus and Olivia, no longer shadowy figures but real people with virtues and flaws. I'd watched my husband support his friend through the darkest days of Olivia's treatment, now able to stand beside him rather than wonder about his unexplained absences. Olivia stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked better than she had in months, still thin but with more color in her cheeks, more life in her eyes. You guys are early, she mumbled, pushing herself up against the pillows. Eager to celebrate, Ethan replied, settling into the chair beside her bed. It's not every day your doctor uses the word promising 3 times in one conversation. Olivia smiled, though I caught the flash of fear that never quite left her eyes. Don't jinx it. We've been here before. This time feels different, I said, perching on the edge of her bed. You're stronger. I am, she agreed. And not just physically. She reached for my hand. Having you in on the secret, it changed things. Made it feel less like something shameful to hide. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. What I'd initially feared would destroy my marriage had, in a roundabout way, strengthened it. Ethan and I had confronted our patterns of communication, the ways we tried to protect each other that sometimes did more harm than good. Marcus said to tell you he's bringing a surprise, Ethan mentioned. Olivia rolled her eyes. If it's another inspirational cancer survivor memoir, I might scream. We laughed, the ease between us still sometimes surprising me. There had been awkward moments early on, times when my resentment flared, when Ethan's guilt made him withdraw, when Olivia's illness took turns that tested all of us. But we'd pushed through, finding a new equilibrium. The door opened again, and Marcus entered, followed by Madeline and an older Asian man I didn't recognize. Olivia froze, her hand tightening on mine. Dad? The man stepped forward, uncertainty in every line of his body. Olivia, Marcus moved to his sister's side. I know we agreed long ago not to involve him, but things change. People change. He glanced at me meaningfully. Sometimes secrets need to be brought into the light. Watching the complicated reunion unfold, Olivia's wariness, her father's regret, Madeline's gentle mediation. I felt Ethan's arm slip around my waist. Thank you, he whispered against my hair. For what? For not giving up on me when you had every reason to. For showing me what real partnership looks like. I leaned into him, the pain of that day in our kitchen now a distant ache rather than an open wound. We almost lost everything because you thought you had to carry this burden alone. Never again, he promised. The words both a vow and a reminder. Over Olivia's bed, her family tentatively rebuilding bridges long thought burned. I thought about the strange, painful journey that had brought us all here. How a moment that had felt like an ending, finding my husband in tears, hearing words that shattered my world, had ultimately been a beginning. Not the story I thought I was living, but perhaps the one I needed to learn. Later, as we drove home through the gathering dusk, I reached across the console to take Ethan's hand. What are you thinking? He asked, glancing away from the road briefly. that I'm glad I came home early that day, I said, as painful as it was. His fingers tightened around mine. Me too. The truth, I'd discovered, was rarely simple and never painless. But facing it together, that made all the difference in the world.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.